wise, understanding beings who will really review with us where we made our mistakes and how we can do better in our next life. This idea of very old souls and very young souls can be confusing. And let me explain why. You might be an old soul in the sense that you've been around since the Stone Age, but you might not have learned your lessons very well or very quickly. So you might be maybe going from a beginner to an intermediate as opposed to a more advanced soul, simply because you need more time and more lives to do the work that you need to do. I've had other people who have had souls that have progressed very rapidly. I had one lady who in 4,000 years of incarnations on Earth, which is not a long time, moved from the beginner level up to almost intermediate, which is very, very fast. So the reason that I can tell this is by the auras they project in the spirit world, and usually these colors have really no relation to the auras that people who have that ability on Earth can see around us. And from the colors of their energy, I can determine the advancement of the soul. This took a long, long time to discover this and all the other things that we're talking about today. I had to piece together this puzzle. It did not all come to me in a rush with that lady I spoke about earlier, who was my first case in Life Between Lives. I had to work very hard, because people don't volunteer information, in order to get the information that I have written about. It took many, many years. And I'd just like to say, too, that I tried to keep my work unbiased. And when I talk to you about people like guides and the council and so forth, I ask people, what do you see? Not, do you see so-and-so? So that regardless of how many cases have gone before the client I'm working with now, the material seems fresh to them. I ask open-ended questions so that they will come to me with the answers that they're going to frame in their own minds. And one of them is, as I said, that's a very important one, is what we've just talked about, is their counsel, because they really do want to talk to me about these beings and what they mean to them. People can get misconceptions from ghosts, and it's my feeling that there are beings who have not left the astral plane yet because they're not ready to. They're very dissatisfied with things. Maybe they were murdered. They want to find vengeance and so forth. They're not forced into the spirit world. Usually they're taken by the hand when they're ready and taken into the spirit world. I might also say that there's another element of this that's kind of unique to my own work in terms of ghosts. I believe in the duality of souls. Souls have the ability to live parallel lives, to divide their energy. A part of their energy always stays behind in the spirit world. So you could have a ghost with an energy particle who is still on Earth but have the same holographic image, if you will, of that soul's ego in the spirit world at the same time. So we never stop learning, and we never actually are totally disconnected from the spirit world. Soul groups are one of the most interesting aspects of my work. The reason for this is that people who I take into their soul group are able to tell me their level of advancement based on how the others are doing in their group as well as themselves. This gives me a much broader perspective as to where this individual is in terms of development. There are, in every soul group, a variety of personalities. You have courageous souls, you have meek souls, you have passive souls, you have souls who are very unselfish, those that are a bit more self-centered. You have souls that are quiet and contemplative, and those that are jokesters. So from that information, I'm able to determine psychologically a lot about the type of group that my client comes from and what I might be able to do to help them in terms of their life lessons and purpose. But it's fascinating, too, from another standpoint, because we don't all progress in the same, at the same speed, in the same way, in the same areas. I like to point out that I had one man that took him between 4,000 and 5,000 years to conquer jealousy. He is not a jealous person in this life. He is intolerant as hell, and that's what he's working on now, but he's not jealous. And so that was his particular difficult hurdle to get over. And yet there are people in his soul group that were always very tolerant, and they have tried to help him between lives. So This is what I mean about rates of progression. And yet, I find that the whole soul group pretty generally belongs in a certain niche as far as development, and they're all going to kind of move forward together. Some a little faster than others, others will be a little slower, but essentially they're all at about the same level. Essentially, in the beginning of our many, many existences, it's about learning lessons. It's about improving, understanding where we are in terms of our development and where we need to go. And the reason that that's such an important question is that many, many people that I work with incarnate on other worlds and are in other dimensions besides Earth. Earth has a particular difficulty in that we have amnesia. Our human minds set up an amnesic block when we come into this world so that we, in fact, don't have any knowledge that we can recall readily about the spirit world or our spirit guides. Interestingly enough, it's not so true with young children. You see a little boy or girl playing in a sandbox, 1 year old, 2 years old, and they're having these imaginary playmates which may not be so imaginary. But by the time they're in the first grade in school, we've pretty much knocked all that out of them, and so, you know, that amnesic block is pretty much set, and so they don't remember themselves as spirits, and they don't remember their friends in the spirit world as spirits. But what's interesting is that it is a planet, Earth is, of self-discovery. The idea is that by not knowing the answers to the test questions before you come in, you solve these problems yourself in your own way, in your own time, and in your own environment, and in your own body. Not to say that we don't have genetic problems. There are those who select bodies who do have problems with aggressive behavior. Maybe they have a chemical imbalance that causes other behavioral problems that they need to overcome in order to achieve the lessons for which they came through to accomplish on Earth. And I'd like to point out that it's by design. Everyone in every body has selected that body. They knew in advance what the body was going to be like to a certain extent, and they chose that body with the help of their guides in order to achieve certain lessons. But these same folks can also incarnate on other planets where there is no amnesia. They can be flying creatures. They could be undersea creatures who are very intelligent. They could be interdimensional shadows. They can be flames. They can be water or gas-like creatures. There are all different ways in which we can progress and learn and understand about who we really are and the power of our energy. Earth is only one school. For me, it's difficult to say the word God because, to be quite frank with you, I came into this as an atheist. I did not believe in God. I did not believe that there was anything after life but ultimate oblivion. And my clients kind of brought me to this kicking and screaming, brought me to the party. And it was only after years of work with them and the consistency of the reports and knowing what I do about hypnosis and doing the work and research myself that has finally brought me to the point today where I can say that I believe in a power greater than myself, a source for all life and all intelligence. So the concept of all this incarnation is to arrive at that state of perfection where we can rejoin, if you will, that source from whence we came.